Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. This is Zeki Hamid. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at KUOW, and welcome to the 6th episode of Are We Going to Be Okay? Now, it's been 50 days since the stay-at-home order and 64 days since schools closed, which means that you really should have written at least 3 King Lears. If you haven't, what are you doing, slacker? Right? Anyway, this is our weekly series of virtual conversations with community members from different corners of our region to talk about how we're handling this new reality. Now, this week's theme is music, and we want you to be a part of this conversation. So please send us your comments and questions on whichever platform that you're watching this on. Just go to the comments section right below and send us your questions. And now it gives me great joy to introduce my co-host for this series, special projects editor and co-host of Battle Tactics for Your Sexist Workplace podcast, Jeannie Yendel. Hi, Jeannie.
Hi, Zeki. I've written 5 King Lears so far.
Oh, good for you.
That's not true. I've just rewatched Buffy the Vampire Slayer twice. That's all I've done. Yeah.
I got out of bed, so.
Yay! I got dressed. Yep, I feel really good about that. And before we get started, just a little more sort of, I guess, housekeeping, behind the curtain stuff. Those of you who are watching may notice that on occasion, Zeki and I are looking down at something rather than like looking at the screen and looking like we're engaged in this conversation. And we're not like making a grocery list or anything like that. Our producer, Kristen, sends us the questions that you add in the comment section below on Facebook Live or on YouTube so we can include them in the conversation. So when we're looking down, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at your questions and we're getting ready to ask one of them for you, just so you're aware of what's going on there.
Yeah, thank you for that. So now I'd like to introduce our guest. SassyBlack is a Seattle musician and multimedia artist. She has written and produced all of her own music with more than 15 projects released since 2014, along with her music, which was featured on Adult Swim and the series 20s, which you can see on BET. She's also been an actor on HBO's Vinyl. We were just talking about that. I love that show, and it's such a tragedy that it got canceled. But also Comedy Central's Broad City. Sassy's music is available really wherever streaming happens, wherever platform that you have it. So welcome to Are We Going to Be Okay, Sassy? We're so glad you're here.
Yay! Thanks for having me. Yay!
And we want to talk about all of the online collaborations and performances you've been doing and all of that. But first, we kind of want to go back in time and we want to talk about the before times, before the pandemic.
BC.
Yeah, exactly. BC, but exactly before coronavirus. Yeah. And I'm wondering if there is a live performance that you did that that really stands out in your memory. I might be assuming that there is a unique magic in performing live. But I'm wondering if there is a performance for you that makes you think like, there it is. Yep, that was the one.
There's like a couple for me. I have been performing for so long, sometimes it is like what happens behind the scenes that you don't know, like someone who's backstage watching you perform. Like one time I opened up for Erykah Badu in my old group, and Badu was watching right to my right. And that was like, or just like the sheer communication between me and the audience, even if I don't know the language. Like I've performed in Milan and Barcelona. I performed at this festival called the Barcelona Arts Musicale or something like that. And it's just like a big festival that takes over all of downtown Barcelona. And so they have all these outside performances, and they had me headline in 2016 to 5,000 people. You know what I'm saying? And I do not speak fluent Spanish, but they were zigging it at 9 p.m. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think about things like that, like you never know who's in the audience. Like I've had like Bjork in the audience before, or like just crazy stuff over my career that I'm still like, did that really happen?
Wow.
And I think that's what, those little surprises you have no idea, or somebody telling you later on that they saw you and, it really struck a chord with them when they were there. They felt like you were saying it to them. So I miss those things. I also miss doing those weird comedy banter, because most of my banter is now just me staring at the screen being like, haha, I'm funny, right? But it was better when people were there like confirming that I was funny.
Yes.
And then we would have,
It's
you know, a
hard,
back and forth
yeah.
and exchange. So, I mean,
It's
I guess
hard
it's
when you
like a
don't
bunch
get
of
that
stuff.
back.
Yeah, I just feel crazy.
Do you get nervous at all when somebody, you know, isn't like Erykah Badu is watching you, or Bjork or something like that? Does that creep in at all? Any kind of nervousness?
Yeah.
Or does that energize you?
That nervousness, yeah, but it comes and then I put it like to the right, Like I don't let it land in my center. I like put it over to the side. I'm like, we're going to examine how scared we were later.
Nice.
Like, you know, when you're doing something so often and you perform so often, I feel like your brain splits into three. There's like the muscle memory, there's like the accuracy, and then there's that weird divine space where you're just like, what did I eat for breakfast? You know? And so
oh my
like,
God. Yep.
you know, I mean, I feel like everybody who's mastered any type of craft or spent a lot of time in it feels those different things. So I put that over there.
So I want to talk a little bit about Afrofuturism, and I've been so excited to dig into that because your website describes you as an Afrofuturist musician and a modern day creative oracle. I love that. So first, I want to talk about Afrofuturism. When the movie Black Panther came out, like for a lot of us, that was the entry point into Afrofuturism. So I'm just really curious, how do you define it?
You know, Afrofuturism is a term that came up, and for people like myself who had an afro and was like making electronic beats, it was like, that's them, you know, just like that was like kind of enough. But I also, you know, like I have music where I said I'm an alien or I'm from space, and you know, I still do that in like all of my records. So I guess that's why too. I don't know. I think it is Blackness. I think to be Afrofuturistic is to be Black, and I've been cited saying that before because we've Black people and people identifying as Black and throughout the diaspora have always had to survive. So we always had to think about the future. There's never been a time we haven't had to think about the future. So I'm reading Walter Mosley right now, White Butterfly, and I love it. I love Walter Mosley. Love it. When he came to town last year, I was there. Okay. You know, and like Octavia Butler, right?
Okay.
You know, and like Pattern Master and things like that. They're always talking about the future. And it's crazy because these are timeless books. Same thing with like Quincy Jones, whether it's jazz or it's funk or it's pop or it's TV, with whether it's Root or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like things that are timely, but also, you know, present and for the future. I think that's a way a lot of the Black culture is digested in general.
Right. Yeah. And do you know Tim Fielder?
Not off the top of
So
my head.
Tim Fielder, I was looking at this and I really have to get his graphic novels. He's a graphic novelist, but he kind of goes back in history and almost rewrites it in an Afrofuturistic way. So you're looking at the Jim Crow era, but there are these superheroes, right, that have these powers and are fighting and stuff like that. So it's almost like a retro Afrofuturism kind of, I was just learning about him recently, something that I was like, oh, right down my alley. I mean, graphic novels and this looks like really great stuff. Just a couple, one more follow-up on this. How do you incorporate, you know, Afrofuturism into your work, and how does it influence your identity as an artist?
Beyond saying you're from another planet.
Yes.
You know, I think it's about being present in myself, right? Because essentially, okay, now this is where it's going to get trippy, so stick with me.
I love it.
I'm holding onto the sides of my chair.
I think it's about knowing myself, right? I think that, you know, we are all spaceships, right? Because Earth is floating in space, and the body is a vessel, and we have people call it spirits or a soul that lives within you, energy that lives within you, and moods and energy, emotions. And so if we're spaceships, we're constantly floating through space. That means we're aliens, all types of different aliens, you know, even with multiple personalities or whatever, right? You're trying to dissect it, make sense out of this life that we're living that people still cannot tell you what the meaning of it is, right? Like we're living a sci-fi mystery right now, you guys. Well, even with the pandemic, it's a sci-fi mystery, right? And so for me, it identifies, I guess, in my sound structure, my musical structure. A lot of people are like, why do you do such spacious, synthy, weird, very patterned programming, you know, like why some people have called my music skittish, like my drum pattern skittish, but I call it like, it's polyrhythmic. You know, I'm digging deep into those sounds. And I think that's what it resonates for me. It's like understanding that I live on my own planet because I live within myself. And I think that's the most spacey thing that you can do.
I want to ask a little bit about, I feel like maybe this falls more under your modern day creative oracle description. But you
someone wrote that, just so you know, that was paid by
fair enough.
Not me, but I'm cool.
Like, I'll take it.
I like it. I think it's great. But I mean, you started doing online performances well before kind of necessity forced a lot of people to figure this out, right? Well before stay-at-home orders and the pandemic and all of that. And I want to know, like, what you get out of those as an artist, what you get out of online performances, but I'm also wondering what you get out of them as an audience member. If you're watching any other online performances and they're striking you at all.
Yeah, so I will start from the audience perspective because I love a good live stream. I think I've made that exact same face on a live stream and said the same words like that because I really love them. I'm obsessed with Instagram live streams. I'm so millennial. Instagram is like my primary and main, you know, social media platform, my preferred one. It's my top one with the most followers and most reach, but I'm like totally a tech head. And so, oh no, never mind. I'll get into that next. But I was like, wait, I'm getting so excited. So the live streams have been amazing. Like, so I watched the Teddy Riley Babyface. I watched both of them. Okay. And they were amazing. But I watched them live. So I watched them live figure out what was going wrong. I watched all the delays and the space, the late, them trying to figure out how to tap people in. I watched them deal with everyday issues for anybody. And how humbling, how vulnerable, how delicious. Oh, so good. And so, you know, I'm watching those. I watched the Badu, just got one with my mom and my sister-in-law. And we watched all 3-4 hours of it, you know, because now we're just hanging out with them. So the cool thing though is like, I'm just sitting and hanging out with Babyface and Teddy Riley by the candles, right? I'm just hanging out with Badu and Jill Scott. That's amazing. Like that's the difference between the live concerts and the live streams is like, you get this intimacy. And, you know, I was talking to my mom about it. I was like, man, we could never watch Jill Scott and Badu this close. And, you know, just be like, oh, are they going to do this song? Cause somebody be like, shush, be quiet. You know, like people, we're trying to hear them, you know, like it's just like so many people would have been like critiquing. And then also like being in those spaces, you know, like Michelle Obama's in there. Like, when am I going to be in a party where Michelle Obama is, you know, like and I've been at some glorious parties, but you know, it's like really rare that you're going to be at a party with 600,000 people. And then you can tell that Michelle Obama's there because she might be there, but she's not anywhere by you know? And so, you know, there's that. So like, it feels like very intimate. And then, you know, like the versus battle that Swizz Beat and Timbaland are doing, like those are amazing because you also get to know the songs that they value versus, you know, the songs that I want to hear. So as an audience member, I'm loving it. I'm also watching a lot of these IG interviews and, you know, just enjoying it. It's just on a like audience level, it's awesome. On a marketing level, it's fantastic because somebody might see your name in the chat. They might follow you. I am very much so a strategist. So, you know, somebody might follow you if you're chatting, you're paying attention to what's going on, you're responding to what they're saying. Now, as an entertainer, it gets deep. I'm so nerdy. I'm not just around just because I'm around because I was like strategic about it and marketing a lot.
And also you're the first person I've heard describe kind of the tech trouble that Teddy Riley had as like, you liked seeing that and not just, I kind of felt like everybody was just sort of making fun of him for that, but I love that you found something really relatable and awesome in that. So anyway,
yeah. I mean, that's
just
all
a
you
really
want.
Great perspective.
You want it. I mean, it's the best because he was so humble about it. He was like, hey, y'all, we're going to figure it out. And if you guys want to tease me and make shirts together, let me know. I was like, you are such a boss. Like, you know, like that's all, you know, because people get hated on all the time. Like if you're popular, you get trolls. And then, you know, what do you do with the troll? Typically you don't say, hey, let's team up, troll, make some money.
Collaborate. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you're not really just blocking them.
Yeah. So as an entertainer, what do you get out of it?
Yeah. So the tech side is like crazy, right? Like I have all these different lamps and like all these different fabrics, all these different outfits, you know, and then you have to figure out on which platform, how far you're seen. And if somebody else jumps in, how much more compressed does it get? But I love it because I don't have as many nerves because I'm in my own house. So I get to be in my comfort zone. Yeah. Also, you know, for most performers, when you're done with the show, you just want to go. You know, like if you sometimes a lot of times people will stand around and talk to their fans because they want to sell merch and they're appreciative of the fans. But if you just performed for 20, 30, 45, an hour, 90 minutes, you're tired.
Right.
And you've already given everything. And the thing is, when people absorb all of that, they get crazy. It's like, there was so much. Now I could go talk to them. Hi, how are you? I've just always dreamt of talking to you, and talking to you right now is making me shake. And, you know, like people, I've experienced that as an audience member and also as an artist. So it's nice to have like some space to like, be like, I'm going to stop this question and answer now, close laptop, you know? And then also I have fans all over the world. So like I did an Afro-punk live stream towards the beginning of this stay-at-home thing. And people were like tuning in from Brazil and South Africa and things like that. So I was not planning a tour in Brazil anytime soon or South Africa. Yeah. And it takes a really long time to get to South Africa from Seattle. 23 hours, I heard, you know what I'm saying? And so I have access to connect with all of my audience all over the world. And I've also have access to expand my reach, right? Because I can throw a social media ad. I could throw an ad on Facebook or Twitter, not Twitter. They're very expensive. So like that's more of a corporation type thing. Okay. But like, sorry, technical weird stuff. I'm such a nerd. You know, I run my whole things, but like Facebook and Instagram, you could throw an ad on it. And again, just expand your reach. So I'm thinking about it from like several different directions for like where it's going to go in the future. Not just, oh, hey guys, a live stream would be nice. Let's do it. I try to have a plan beforehand for what it will look like, and then like how I'll continue to use it.
Yeah, that's great.
You talked about like that energy thing. Yeah, I know. Right? I'm like, we haven't paid a lot of attention to these things. We probably should. But you talked about the sort of energy outlay that you give at a live performance, and that there's no real cutoff. I mean, it may not be as simple as putting yourself in an introvert extrovert bucket, but do you consider yourself an introvert?
More so.
Yeah.
You know, like like I love entertaining and doing stuff on screen, but man, I just like getting wavy by myself. Wavy, which is just like listening to all the sound waves enter my brain, and just like, you know, working on a mask or knitting or, you know, making beats or practicing. I really enjoy time by myself, so I could just talk aloud to myself. And then, you know, being around people is cool too. But over the years, as I've grown as an artist, I realized that's just really not my vibe. As much as I thought.
Is there something that you miss about being doing live shows in front of people?
Yeah, all of it. You know, there's a ton, you know, there's like, I mean, I had already, like Jeannie said, that I had already been doing, I hope I said your name just right. I was like,
you totally did.
Okay, good. You know, I freak out a little just. But you know, I was already doing live streams before this. So live streams was just like an extra opportunity to get contact with people who just don't go out to concerts. The problem with concerts is that people are finicky, you know? And so like people say, I will totally be there. And then they'll be like, so what happened? And you'll be like, it was a show, dude. Like, you know? And so like so many people were not attending shows, you know? A lot of people want like a tastemaker stamp on a show, even if they know who you are, even if they talk to you, even if they told you. And so it's like really wavy, and I don't like have a label and all this other stuff. I have a very small team and we get like a lot of stuff done, but it's still pretty difficult. And then, you know, there's certain bars and venues that have broken glass on the stage. So they're like, watch out for that, or there's glitter everywhere, or you are banging on the back door to get in, nobody's responding, you know, all the issues that you have as a musician going into a venue, you know, I've had amazing experiences, but sometimes people are like, oh, what? I was supposed to give you your number? Oh,
right.
You know, and so I don't, I don't miss sound checking.
Okay.
I don't miss, you know, like hanging around and that like 2 hours of nerves, right? Between the sound check and when you perform, you know, like it's just this weird, like ongoing mess in your stomach. And so, you know, there's a bunch of stuff I don't miss, but I miss it. I still miss it.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get that. The nerves thing is like, I was in theater for a long time, and actually so was Jeannie. So I think we kind of relate to that. You know, we have somebody that just sent in a request. Actually, it's from Albert on YouTube. It says, I am SassyBlack's literally oldest fan, and love the music. Can she make a soul swing album for swing dancing?
That is so sweet.
That's the request. So
that's amazing.
That's good. I've had people request a couple of different kind of records from me. That's sweet. I could do any genre, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
All right.
Ooh, that's so cool.
I'll write it down.
Yes. Oh, that's a good request, Albert. So we talked a little bit about this, but you know, you've been a solo performer since I think 2016. You know, you're writing your own stuff, you're producing your own stuff, you're doing all of that stuff on your own. I'm wondering though, you know, when you talk to other folks in the music industry, particularly, you know, locally based musicians, what kinds of challenges are you hearing from them? What kinds of challenges are they facing right now?
Well, you know, like being as an insular person, I'm really not talking to many people outside of my meetings. You know, I mean, and that's just to be transparent, because, you know, I think during this time too, it's really important to have boundaries. Like more than ever. So, you know, I just try to manage my own capacity levels to interact with other humans. And that might make me a little bit more alien, you know, actually managing those levels. But, you know, what I've been seeing and hearing is, you know, people miss concerts. They don't know how to do live streams. They're not really feeling it. And, you know, I have been preparing to like rely less on the audience for some time, just because it was so nerve-wracking every time when I was like, are people gonna come? Are people gonna come? You know? And when I stopped doing that, it made my performances better. Like, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago on New Year's Eve, I promised myself that every performance I do for the rest of my life will be because I love it and not because someone's gonna show up. And so all my interaction is with me and my spirits, my ancestors, and the music, right? And whatever energies that are there. And what I've been seeing is like people like really miss human interaction in their shows. And they miss that because they're relying a lot on the audience, which, you know, everyone has their different ways of performing and things like that. And they say like, you know, staring into a screen and performing, it just is not the vibe. And, you know, so I've seen that's been like a lot of issue. And then trying to figure out like, there's a huge learning curve, you know, like people were telling me I had never heard of Zoom until now. What is this? Like, we're not using Google Hangouts. Like, why is everybody using this thing, you know? Or, you know, or Teams, you know, like people aren't using Skype. Like, why are we using that? And I was like, I mean, I've been hip to Zoom for like 2 years because of meetings. But, you know, so people have to learn so much. They have to learn OBS. They have to figure out Twitch. You know, they have to figure out what platform works for them. They got to get booted 5 times off of whatever platform that doesn't work, you know? And so, and that's exhausting besides just like wanting to figure out how you're paying your rent or what's going on. It's just exhausting. So you have to learn like 20 new things. And then we're not even talking about sound. I'm just talking about the software to make sure it works. Right. And you have to figure out how to be your own sound engineer. Oh my
that's
gosh.
a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think that you would be facing kind of a different set of challenges right now? I mean, even if you had been as, I guess, prepared as it turns out you are for performing remotely rather than doing live in-person performances, if you were, I mean, part of a band rather than a solo act, I'm just imagining what musicians and bands are trying to cope with right now.
Together, right?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
How do you do the thing you do?
The Roots did it where, you know, we on what's the Late Show or Tonight Show, right? Like where they're actually separately thinking, but I haven't seen anybody do it that well. But yeah,
You
sorry,
know,
go ahead.
there's the latency on internet. So that's the hardest part about doing anything, right? And
Right.
so
Yeah.
a lot of software is developed right now that will let people collaborate, but the
Mhm.
latency is hard. So, you know, like you really have to make sure your internet's stable, but all 4 or 5 other whoever's playing with you,
Mhm.
it's really best to pre-record, but you know, because you need someone to go through and edit it. I mean, because just
Right.
technologies move forward so fast, but
Mhm.
it's still got a long way to go. And
Right.
Yeah.
so, you know, I feel for bands and I feel for people who are in bands who want to make it
Mhm.
happen. But, you know, it's just really tough. You know, they just have a lot to figure out. Like, what are they going to do? And I mean, I think for a lot of bands, it would just be better to pre-record something, edit it, and just debut a new video or something every week or however.
Mm.
You know, I've been doing, like I said, I've been doing a lot of research on it. And just so you know, I come from a tech family. Like, so like my brothers work in tech. My grandfather used to work for IBM.
Yeah.
And I'm the music tech person. So, you know, in my research, you know, just like anything else, it just requires consistency. But I think people need to be patient with themselves and
Mhm.
really decide what they want to do. What do they want
Mm.
from a platform? What are they trying to get from a live stream? If they just want to get something out, then pre-record it and edit it and take some time. If they want to advertise something or whatever, you know, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Maybe it's only 2 people at a time and you're showcasing it or whatever,
Mhm.
you know, but Kevin Sir of Artist Home said something really good on Facebook, because now I'm just like reading everything like I'm talking to people. So sometimes I'll say, I heard. I'm like, you didn't hear that, you read it. You know?
Yes. Oh my God.
So, you know, I was reading, he was saying in a post, like, you know, make sure artists, if you're advertising, you have something coming up, advertise the same way you would a show, you know, in an event. Take that extra step, put it like announce it 2 weeks in advance, keep telling folks about it, make a flyer, you know. And so I think it's just going to take time and patience. And it's really hard to be patient with yourself when, you know, you're just trying to figure out where the next dollar's coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's actually a great kind of segue, because what I want to talk a little bit about the financial stability for artists for a second. So musicians, other performance artists who are dependent on income from live shows, obviously they're probably really concerned right now as, you know, lockdown orders continue. There's a lot of bands like, you know, that tour all the time, because that's all they, you know, whether they're going to casinos or something like that, and they can't do that right now. So your own performances have successfully, you know, mostly shifted to online spaces even before any of this hit. So can you just tell us a little bit about the decision to do more shows from a financial maybe
Online
point of view?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's most important currency is energy exchange. And so that's always been what it is. So people can gather that because people are like, oh, you're so charismatic, whether you're talking to someone or talking to yourself. And I was like, yeah, because, you know, I studied acting. And so I've studied acting since I was like 12 and public speaking. And my parents have been public speakers and stuff like that. So I know how to engage, but I also know how to practice on how engaging. It's like I wasn't just born very clever and engaging, you know, like it's a practice. And so it was very intentional for me because I wanted as many people to see it, what I could do as possible. In terms of my career, it's been tough. It's been really challenging. I really rarely reflect on that online because I don't want to spread negative energy. I don't want to dampen my gratitude or how it seems about, you know, the things that I've been blessed and honored and I've worked my butt off to get. But it's been a tough time, you know? And so like a lot of people are not really that open to like a Black woman making beats and people are opening up more and more to that, or my sci-fi psychedelic sound. And then I realized I really need to get the word out. So what's the best way to do that? Do a live stream, take a clip of the live stream, put it on an ad, tell people what happened. And, you know, that's kind of how SassyBlack Sundays, my IGTV series launched last summer, because I was like really nervous. I was nervous about doing any of this live stream stuff. Like, let me just be really real. It's like, I was getting nervous teaching in front of people. you know? So I was like very nervous about doing some live stream stuff because I wanted my sound, and I'm kind of a perfectionist in that account. But, you know, when I took that leap, it made a big change. I saw people coming up and say, oh, I saw this. And then more opportunities were coming in. So it was really just an opportunity for me to showcase the kind of work that I do to as many people as possible. Because I always thought, if people heard me, if people could only hear and see what I look like performing, because I didn't have a lot of performance videos before my SassyBlack Sundays, you know, because I wasn't hiring a video team. Those stuff is expensive. I wasn't hiring a team to film and edit all my shows and stuff, you know, and I didn't even know what it wanted to look like. I just had too many questions and ideas. And so by doing that, you know, I wanted people to know what the performance looked like. And it actually was trying to get people to my shows, to get them to my concerts and to book me. I was like, maybe if they know that I'm engaging, they will book me. And now I was like, well, I guess it's working the other way.
Yeah. So do you see financial opportunities out of this for like one for yourself and for really musicians while they're still at home?
Absolutely.
Yeah, now you get to be a real oracle.
Yeah.
It's kind of awesome. I do think that there's more financial opportunities because people are looking for content. People are like, oh, we got to make something happen. We got to make something happen now so we can stay relevant and, you know, our organization stays alive. We can keep the venue or whatever we're working on, you know, or we can just be current because everyone's on the internet right now and no one's gonna burn out just yet, you know, like so. And so like you got like all these different platforms keep updating and we're gonna make this available. I promise we're gonna make this available, you know, like. And so I do think it's a great opportunity because, you know, it made cyber tipping a thing.
Right.
You know,
oh yeah,
digital tipping wasn't like virtual tips. That wasn't really a thing. I mean, even I, you know, and shout out to the people who are already doing this beforehand, because thank God you know your worth. You know, for me, I was like nervous. Even at a show, I'm like, I don't know if I should ask for tips, man. Like, I don't know. I'm getting like paid like this silly low guarantee. That should be good enough for me and some fries. You know, like, yeah, I did it, you know, but I'm like,
and
I don't know.
A single free well drink.
Right. and the soda's flat, you know, like so, but you know, I was like really nervous about asking for tips. And now this is a safe space. The whole internet. I mean, even Spotify made it an opportunity for you to get donations on the Spotify website.
Oh, wow.
That's
so if they're just streaming your music, they can tip?
So if they go to your page, so, you know, if anyone went to my Spotify page for, you know,
for example,
you would see, you know, COVID relief support this artist or something, and you could press that. And there's like a couple different options of where you can send it to. I think it's Cash App and PayPal and maybe something else. And I think you can also have it sent to like an organization you want to fundraise for it. So I think that's amazing and groundbreaking for something like Spotify to do that, you know, but SoundCloud's done something similar. A lot of these websites have made it so you can donate and give artists money directly, which is just has not been a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, you watch a live stream and you're like, well, I deserve to watch it. You know, but now everyone can be like, here's where you should give me money. So you should just do that. And I just have it listed in my bio on my Instagram now and my Twitter, just so like anybody who's feeling like, hey, I saw something interesting. Oh yeah, I give her some money. And so I think that's really useful. And then, you know, there's been a lot of different opportunities to do that. So like whether people decide that they want to do a live stream a month or a week, or some people are doing it every day, you know, you can go ahead and do that. I mean, that's what the streaming gamers are doing. That's not right. The gamers are doing on Twitch.
Online gamers, I don't know what to,
I mean, that's what they're doing. They're streaming and they're like, hey, give me a tip for playing this game well and saying some weird commentary.
Have you thought about charging like a cover charge to access the stream?
I have. You know, I think that's going to just take a little bit of time because I am so particular. And, you know, I want to figure out a good platform, you know, so Zoom might be one, I don't know. And then, you know, like certain platforms like Wix are making it so that, you know, you can use Zoom and you can have people rent or subscribe through platforms. So, you know, different websites are making it so that you can have that available on your website. So it's about figuring out the right platform for me personally. You know, some people use Patreon. or all kinds of things. I like to try and make it like as much one-stop shop as possible, because you lose like 10% every time you change platforms or some weird percentage, right? So I've thought about it. Right now, I like having some things for free, because I want to have as, people see it as much as they want. But I have thought about like having full concerts. I'm also still trying to engage though, because if I just started saying, hey, I have concerts, give me $10, like I might only make $2 or not $2, or however much, like $20 because I got 2 people, right? Yeah. But like on Instagram, I have like 11,000 followers, and like Twitter, I have like 4 or 5. If I'm doing stuff on these platforms, or Facebook is like 6,000, I have more access to people who are already engaging on the platform. Yeah. So like you have to like really engage those folks, engage them enough so that you can say, hey, you like that thing I've been doing free for 3 months? I'm stopping it here. Right. And now give me money over there, please. Yeah. And then you have to add perks, because like it's, what makes it special? Like, are you going to talk to them at the end or whatever? Like, I love that Badu has been doing these awesome DJ sets and live performances, right? And she's doing this world market thing, and her and Jill got real clever and sold shirts before and after, and were average. I was like, you guys are geniuses. But she's doing $1 concerts on there. But again, it's pointing, if you guys are sending someone to go somewhere, like send them all to the same place where they have access to get your merchandise, your music, right, interact with you. You don't want to send them here, go here, and now go here.
And we actually, one of Aisha, this is Aisha Brown, she was a guest on Are We Gonna Be Okay a couple of weeks ago. She actually wrote in specifically talking about that Jill Scott, Erykah Badu versus night, and just she talked about what it was just an amazing experience to be part of that audience. It really hit like a good nostalgic place for her, and it was amazing, as you said, to be part of like an audience of 500,000 people plus around the world watching this at the same time. But I also, like, as I think about that, yes, that sounds amazing. Like that's sort of the height of the aspiration here. But I also find myself thinking about, I guess, what what being a music fan or a music audience member has felt like for like before all of this. And I wonder if you've thought at all about what is the Seattle music scene gonna look like on the other side of this?
I have been thinking about it, and I really don't know. I'm hoping that, we have all these tech companies here, and that, they figure out some cool streaming stuff that we can do that makes it, maybe there's a couple of platforms that you can use to do live streams and things like that. But, I don't know, some type of integration with social media, maybe. In terms of the fans, I think our fans have been pretty dedicated, to supporting us. And we have fans even in legislature, and law officials, which has been really nice, because, they're providing funding for our venue, our independent venues and things like that. Like, we have people fighting for us. So, like the fans aren't only the people who show up in person, they're the people who are buying stuff online, and they were already doing things on multiple levels. They're the folks at the radio stations, and just, making space to amplify us. So, I mean, I think that love is here. I think it's going to get super stronger. I think people are going, when we are able to go outside, I think people are going to be stoked and super ready. And, but at concerts, and I hope that the venues are really thinking strategically about the reopen, right? So that it's like less competitive and more cooperative, and then, I hope they're thinking about these small artists that did step up to do a performance for whatever type of benefits have been happening or whatever. I hope they're thinking like, okay, this is our list. I hope they're keeping a list of people who they're going to book, when this time is over. I think that would be a super powerful move, just to show that they care. And even the pairings on the higher levels, when these bigger bands are able to come in. I think it'll be interesting, but I think, the fans are a big part of my musical experience. I won't say that they're the primary, because that's not true. I'm the primary. You know, my musical experience is around my whole spiritual journey. And I know we're going to talk about this next thing, so I don't want to lead too far. And so like, I'm so excited. But it's, it's about my own personal spiritual journey. And I think the audience is I think people are realizing the value and the necessity of music more than ever right now, because people are running to music, running to movies, television, music, and literary arts.
Is there something is there a specific, sorry to cut you off, is there a specific like a song that's really resonating with you right now, like in this time, like you keep going back to?
I have like music I listen to remember what day it is when I stretch. So I have a playlist. So like I know what days are like different playlist changes. A song I've always listened to my whole life is Sun Shower by Dr. Buzzard's original Savannah Band. That song is amazing. It just makes me feel so comforted. I also think about Human Nature by Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah.
That makes me comfortable. Yeah. But this one record has resonated with me for years, and my dad used to play it when I was a kid. Bobby McFerrin's Bang Zoom, which came out in I think 1996, the year before I moved to Seattle. And so that brings me so much calm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really lovely. We're talking with SassyBlack. She's a musician, a producer, an actor, and Seattle's goddess of psychedelic soul. Yay! If you have any questions for SassyBlack about music, about the music industry, about art, creativity during this pandemic, or taking care of your own energy, which I think is a really interesting thing to think about, you can ask those questions below and in the comments. You can also tweet us at KUOW Engage. So we are now going to start talking about somebody whose work you have become a big fan of, Malcolm Gladwell. You've been spending a lot of time with his work recently, I guess. Why? What do you get out of studying his work?
Well, I feel like we're besties now.
If he does a show, you're going to go up to him afterward and you're going to be like, oh my God, I know you so well.
Yeah, right. I probably will be like trembling at the book side and be like, thank you so much. Can I have a photo? That's what I did when I met Walter Mosley. Just like,
oh my God.
But, yeah, I've been watching the Masterclass series. So I have a subscription to that. And, they're like Samuel Jackson, who's very entertaining on there as well. Martin Scorsese, like Herbie Hancock, Timbaland. It has like amazing just masters of what they do. And I was looking for something different, and my family has talked a lot about Malcolm Gladwell over the years, and they've read his books, and I have not delved in yet. But I was like, let's see what he's talking about, because I didn't want something that was music related at first. I wanted something that would kind of stretch my brain, and I'm a writer as well, so and I'm an interviewer, so I've done all kinds of stuff, and so I just wanted to say, like, what is this cool guy talking about? And I just fell in love like instantly. It's like he felt like a family member. He feels like a cousin of mine. He's, kind of like neurotic and excitable and extreme. And he does this thing, which with my family, I call it Tangent City. He goes to Tangent City and he's like, I'll be back later, maybe. But he always comes back, right? But he's got like a bag of gifts for you. And he's like, here's some information. Here's some knowledge.
Look what I brought you from the wormhole. I know. I love that he does that on his podcast.
It's so good. It's so good. So I'm
watching. Stick with it.
Right. So I'm watching him tell me all this stuff. And I'm just learning so much, because it also makes me not feel alone as a creator. Sometimes I feel alone as a creator and a musician that is kind of like super excitable, kind of really happy about learning stuff and super nerdy and just like tripping about weird facts, just pulling them out. And that's kind of like how my family is. So just like, oh, did you know this? Did you know that?
Right.
And he just made me feel comfortable about myself. So I just loved watching it. I love watching it.
So to prepare for this conversation today, all of us here listened to a Malcolm Gladwell episode of his podcast, Revisionist History. and the episode is called Hallelujah. So this episode is about creative genius. It's episode 7 from season 1. So if you're watching right now, for folks on Facebook or YouTube, you can just find the link to the episode in the description right below. So this episode opens with Gladwell stating that the music you listen to when you are 19 or 20 imprints itself on your consciousness. So I'm curious if you think that's true. I would say when I was 19 and, between 19 and 20, it was all about Pearl Jam for me. So it is still very true. So how about you, Sassy?
Not so much. Like, I don't even know what I think it probably does have an imprint, because at that time I was listening to a ton of Jill Scott, Erykah Badu, and India Arie. And so obviously that has a big imprint. But I think more of the stuff from my childhood has like a huge impact on me. Like, I think about when I told my brother and my mom, my older brother, that I wanted to sing. My older brother got me Mariah Carey's Butterfly for Christmas. It was 97.
Oh
and
my gosh.
that changed how I thought about everything. High notes, low notes, pop music, hip hop, R&B, everything. He also took me to my first concert, Spice Girls. But it's just like, so I don't know, because that Bang Zoom is from another time too. So I think it's kind of more fluid for me, but maybe it's because I'm a musician too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, first concerts, just really quick, we're going to go, what is that called? Sequitur City? What are you?
Tangent City.
Tangent City.
We're just going to do a tangent cul-de-sac though, because we don't have time for a whole city. Yeah.
Exactly. Just a really quick cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
My first concert ever, Pepsi and Shirley. Nobody knows who they are. Look them up. They're British.
Okay.
Pepsi and Shirley.
What?
Oh yeah, from the 80s. Yeah.
Okay. Mine was Depeche Mode.
Oh, nice.
I know.
Not bad.
I know. I feel
good.
that one piece of data makes you think I was a really cool kid, and I am here to tell you I was not. It's a very misleading piece of data. Yeah. Okay. So
we're back.
Yes, now we're back. We're back from tangent cul-de-sac. It was a nice cul-de-sac. So one of the things in this episode that really kind of grabbed my attention was this theory that Malcolm Gladwell focuses on, this idea that there are two kinds of creative geniuses, or like there are two paths you can take, right? One is, and I'm looking down at my notes because I want to make sure I get it right. So there's the conceptual innovator, and then there's the experimental innovator. Picasso was Gladwell's example of a conceptual innovator, right? This is somebody who just kind of like shows up, usually when they're younger, kind of like with a fully formed artistic vision and just like runs with it. And that's how he described Picasso. And then he said that the painter Cézanne is more of an experimental innovator. So this is somebody who is like perpetually unsatisfied, keeps working on something for years and years and years, never really feels like it's done or complete or ready or anything like that. And in fact, the song Hallelujah is the example, the other big example in this episode of like a piece of work from an experimental innovator. Like Leonard Cohen worked on that thing for 5-6 years. So, I mean, I'm going to make you put yourself in a bucket again, but do you think you're a conceptual innovator or an experimental innovator?
I'm absolutely an experimental innovator.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Well, okay. There's an EP I released. My latest EP is called IB Bay.
It's
And
so good.
thank you.
It really is.
It's really funny because I came up with that idea 2015, so 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I made shirts for it. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. So I made shirts before I made the music, which is like, what's on your head? You're scared of making the tunes? Like, yeah. So, it started from a melody I had in my head and the words came. But it took me 5 years to get those words down and to make the music for it, So I have a lot of projects like that. And I even when the stuff I've released, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, maybe I should reapproach that and put that out again. Would you like to do, and when I've done the SassyBlack Sundays, sometimes I'll have a song with a new arrangement at the end, which, I think about Prince and Stevie Wonder, who just had his birthday, and Michael Jackson, who are perfectionists and spend a lot of time deep diving into their lyrics and what they're saying. and, you know, what they're working on and what they're expressing, because the energy is really important to know. And, you know, every now and then I'll just release something. I'll just put up something. I'll be like, this is me going doop, 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 doop for 20 minutes, you know? But it's still thought out. It's still particular. It's still a reason. So even if the projects are like demos, it's an intentional example. Like I did a project called Space Days Beat Craze, which is January, 31 days. I tried to make a beat a day or finish a beat and put it up every day on SoundCloud. I got to 21 days, which is the highest I've ever done. And some of the songs are half whatever, but it's like just a challenge. And I wasn't doing it to be perfect. I was doing it to challenge myself to release something that scared me on a consistent basis, and to show people that it's okay to be afraid. And this is what happens if you try doing something challenging and consistent. It doesn't have to be scary. Just try it and something cool, and you'll see different sides of yourself.
I love that
really
kind of
interesting.
Confronting that fear, right? And when you're creating or you're an artist, fear definitely plays a big part that we don't really talk about as much. So the one part of that podcast is they talk about Jeff Buckley's, or really Leonard Cohen's song, and then they talk about Jeff Buckley doing it as well, Hallelujah. Do you have any particular attachment to that song or any kind of strong feelings about it? It resonates so much with a lot of people. Does that do that to you at all?
I feel like it's the song that I've heard like when the snow starts falling and some dude staring up at the sky at the end of a movie or something. Like I feel like it's like a scene that, hallelujah. He's like, oh, I don't know what I've done.
It's probably been used like that.
Right? Like slumping around, sitting in a coffee shop, drinking coffee, really late, really sad, eating pie, something like that, you know. I don't know all the lyrics like that, you know. It wasn't ever something that I was like, man, I gotta go learn this thing, you know. But I've heard it a lot, and when it does bring up nostalgia easily, because I've heard it in a lot of movies. But you know, I always figured it might be one of those tricky songs that has like a deeper meaning if I did go through and look at all the lyrics, but just never really felt that inspired to do that for that song.
Yeah. I mean, so I have an attachment to the Jeff Buckley version of Hallelujah. I once timed how long he held the second to last Lou note in Hallelujah in his version of it, and I was going to get the time tattooed on my wrist. This is when I was in my 20s. I really love that version of the song. Anyway, but I will also say, as much as I loved this particular podcast episode of Malcolm Gladwell's, this particular episode of Revisionist History, I noticed a pattern with like all of the creative geniuses he talked about, you know, Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan, Picasso, Cezanne, Elvis Costello, Alfred Hitchcock. Are you picking up the pattern yet? Can you guess what it is? They're all white men. I was wondering.
I figured that.
Yeah, right? That probably wasn't too hard of a guess. What did you think about that?
With the old Greek? No.
I mean, it has to do with, you know, whoever's consciousness is presenting the piece, right? And so obviously that's what he's nostalgic for. And that makes sense. I mean, he's Canadian, he's in the East Coast, you know, it's like there's a whole whimsy of the time frame that he grew up that has like a particular focus on that. Even being that, you know, they wouldn't show Black music videos or Black, you know, musicians on TV for a really long time. They wouldn't even show Black artists on artwork for music that was theirs. So, you know, I'm not surprised that that's who he thinks of instinctually, because that is like what's marketed. You know, there's a lot of innovators I think about, you know, like Ella Fitzgerald or Bessie Smith or Patrice Rushen. Talk about an experimental innovator. She's like, but I know not even experimental. What's the other one? I can't remember.
Conceptual.
She's a conceptual innovator.
A conceptual innovator.
Because I feel like she knew what she wanted to do. She got it done. And now she's chilling, you know, like she's not like, I don't see her rushing to make I don't see her rushing to make new records, but, you know?
Yeah.
So I think about, there's so many women like that. And then there's so many ones that are just like, hey, I'm just going to go crazy, you know, or like ESG, or, you know, like there's so many groups and bands of women who've just been out. And in my mind though, when I start thinking about artists and people who inspired me, I standardly think of a lot of Black people and a lot of women instantly, but that's just because how I've been raised, and then also how I formatted my brain when I, you know, what I really attach myself to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If there was one, so there's one Patrice Rushen song that I like I don't know, I feel like it brings up that nostalgic, that song You Remind Me.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if there is a song you would recommend to everyone by Patrice Rushen, so they could sort of they could connect with her genius.
Yeah, there's that. There's Haven't You Heard? I've been looking for you. There's Sending Me Forget Me Nots, which is
right.
what was sampled for Men in Black by Will
Mhm.
Smith and Coco from SWV. Here comes the man sending you. So you guys should know that, okay? You should
Good
just
point.
know that for your health.
Excellent. Oh my gosh.
I feel so much better now.
I know. Oh,
This is
okay.
my chest.
I know everybody's all of our lungs are more expansive now as a
Yeah.
result of this. SassyBlack, thank you for expanding our lungs. This was a really wonderful conversation.
Thanks for having me. This is so cool.
And I just want to remind everybody that we have these conversations every week, every Thursday at 1 o'clock. And Zeki and I hope that you all can join us next week.
Yeah.
Can I tell you all about some stuff I have coming up before?
Well, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was
Absolutely,
going to
yeah.
ask you about that in a minute, but let's do that
Oh,
now.
sorry.
Let's
I got
do
so
it
excited.
now.
I was
No,
like,
bring it.
Just jumping.
Now's the moment. Do it.
We're besties now. I'm telling you, this internet thing makes it so.
Exactly.
tight-knit.
No, it's all yours. Go for it.
Yeah, I have a couple of live streams. So if you want to see any of my 3 seasons of SassyBlack Sundays, those are all available on my IGTV. SassyBlack Cat, as the words are spelled, is my Instagram. I'm also honored to be doing a solo session for The Roots, which is going to be available on their YouTube. So they selected me to be one of these artists performing a part of their new solo sessions, which I'm
That's
like,
cool.
sure. I also am going to be a part of the Cornish College of the Arts because I'm an alum.
Right on.
Afterglow after party on their Instagram on Saturday, which is going to be nice. I'm going to do something at 2:45, a little thing to celebrate the graduates of 2020. And then I guess one of the biggest things that's coming up is I'm starting to do a concert series celebrating my records I've released, which I don't normally do. You know, you put out a record and you're like, did it. Tour done, did it,
Yep.
tour done, you know? And now I was just like, I am 4 years from the release of my first album, No More Weekdates, which was a huge album, you know, for me. It changed my whole everything. And so I'm doing on Facebook Live a little concert. And so it's going to be an hour and I'm going to talk about the making of the record and, you know, what it was like and how it changed everything.
What's the date and time again of that?
That is Sunday, May 17th.
Okay.
On Facebook. And all the things that are on Facebook or YouTube, you know, they just stay there.
That's
the Instagram
right.
stuff.
Exactly.
That's the stuff that's like, oh
Yeah.
no.
That is so awesome. I, for one, I'm really looking forward to definitely tuning in. So for folks out there, next Thursday, May 21st, starting at 1 p.m. On Facebook Live and YouTube, just like you're watching right now, we're going to be talking with with Eduardo Jordan, who is a James Beard Award-winning chef. He is the owner of June Baby. In the before times,
Yes.
that's one of the places where you could just never get a table because it was so popular. Also, he owns Solare, which has recently transformed into a community kitchen serving service industry workers during this pandemic. So you can find out more information and register at kuow.org/events. And if you want to catch what homework he's assigning us, we were assigned Malcolm Gladwell for this one. You can. We're going to be talking about community organizing, smoked paprika, and the resilience of restaurant industry. You can find a link to June Baby's encyclopedia in the registration link, which can be found at kuow.org/events. You can always email us any thoughts that you have on today's episodes or future episodes, but just go to engage@kuow.org, or if you'd like to use Twitter, which we have learned charges a lot of money for advertisements, you can go at KUOW at KUOW engage. There, I got it all out.
Good work. Good work. So Sassy, you already told us where we can find you, where we can see you perform. I'm wondering, which is great, that's really good. I'm wondering if you have any final thoughts you want to leave us with. No pressure, you know, just a final big takeaway for everybody to hold.
Yes.
Well, you know, I have been teaching and mentoring as well. And so I've been doing these free online music production classes through the King County Library System, which has been really great. I'm getting ready to teach a songwriting class at Hugo House, which opens up on Monday for registering. But with all that, I just like to say, you know, take time to be kind to yourself. Make sure you're drinking water, you're sleeping, you're resting, which doesn't have to be sleeping, but it's just like not staring at a screen or talking to someone. You know, you're eating well, and that you're moving your body, even if you're dancing for only 5 minutes. I suggest people make playlists and figure out how they feel good. You know, like your I feel sad playlist, I feel happy playlist, you know, I'm going to kick a tree, but please don't kick trees.
Don't
playlist,
kick a tree.
you know, like, you know, and just take care of yourself. You know, manage your capacity. It's really important to know how much a human exchange takes, even if it's online. And then, you know, support artists, like artists directly. I'm not talking about labels. I'm not talking about distribution platforms. See if people have a Bandcamp. Pay through Bandcamp first, if you can, because that goes majority to the artist. You know, figure out how you can directly support the artist that you appreciate. And then, you know, try something new. Don't always just say, oh, they're stamped by this person, so that's why I'm going to do it. Or Spotify suggested it, or, you know, Tidal or whatever platform suggested it. Do some research, try something else, you know, and be open to new artists. You never know who's in front of you. And don't, if you can, tip them. You know, we need it. We appreciate it.
Those are awesome last words for this. I, for one, I'm going to be putting on a SassyBlack album and going for a walk after this. So thank you so much, Sassy, and thank you for everybody who tuned in today. I'd also like to thank our producer, Kristen Leong, our events team, Charlotte Dern and Bridget Anderson, our graphics designer and tech guru, Tio Popescu, and our marketing manager is Michaela Giannotti, and our social media strategist, Juan Pablo Chiquiza. Thank you all. We will see you all next week with Chef Eduardo Jordan, Thursday, May 21st at 1 p.m. right here on KUOW's YouTube and Facebook channels. From all of us at KUOW, please be kind to each other, stay safe, stay home, and in the meantime, take it easy.
Bye. Bye, Sassy.
Bye. Thank you.